Okay, so, wow, I finally just decided to share my biggest epiphany with everyone. Just give me a sec. I'm feeling into that. I felt a little bit of something that felt like resistance of that old, fear of really putting yourself out there and being bold and being brave. Does engender a lot of fear in a lot of the caterpillars, doesn't it? And not a result of the caterpillar either, necessarily, but the environment that we've all been in for so long is incredible. So back to where I was. Right. So I was watching um, this episode of Silicon Valley. Uh, I was watching the scene where the Indian guy is in the cafe with his cousin, and his cousin has this app called Bro, and his judgmental nature earlier on in the episode certainly made itself known, which I guess was by design. So well done. Um, and it was so interesting to watch him with his cousin because here's this app that he feels should never succeed because it wasn't created through the path that he chose. That is, his cousin was the one that got into all the trouble. And I started to realize, well, the cousin really was motivated and inspired by his butterfly. So of course the episode goes on, and then the Bro app takes off, and this poor guy, just so caught up in his caterpillar, is so frustrated and so upset and so annoyed by it. And I just couldn't help but remember that that was just me, just such a short time ago, like a year. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the solar coin idea really tickled me, really tickled my butterfly. And that was over a year ago. And I still believe the idea has so much value to the world. I really do. Um, although I guess what I've learned in the last number of months about limitations and the idea of how we've separated ourselves. We limit ourselves so much. And that really is reflective of the idea of man separating himself from, well, God or source, or whatever you want to call that thing that powers the heartbeat in all of us. Yes, that. I'll call it source. I kind of like that word best, given all my background and extremes of my own of religious natures and educational efforts and all kinds of things. My caterpillar has actually had quite an awesome life in so many respects. If you want to know more about her, you can just go to the LinkedIn profile, because that's, I think, what LinkedIn is for. It's like it's like the world of caterpillars. And you know what? They're all awesome. They have achieved so many things, and so many of them at the resistance of their inner voice. I know for me that was the case. My every decision I made on those things were driven by the rules of the world around me as I observed them for 45 years. Anyway, and I realize I'm a heck of an observer, I guess. Even then, I learned a lot of skills on that, and now I'm observing again with kind of new eyes, I guess. But it's not like the old eyes are gone. I mean, they're still here too. And so often in this process, I've wanted to beat my old self up, and I guess sort of have a hierarchy on myself. That person who did such a terrible thing to someone 20 years ago, that that really doesn't serve any purpose, because out of those lessons really come the most profound ones. I mean, when I went back and looked at the times in my past where I felt that I'd been wronged, and I viewed the situation again as though it was a lesson that I was intended to learn now, I flipped that whole thing around and really started to see myself differently. It really has nothing to do with anybody else. It's entirely up to us. So recently I've been kind of wondering and putting it out there and going on faith after listening to, oh my goodness gracious, so many sources of information. Oh, I've listened to Bashar and Cryon and Matt Kahn and Adamus and Crimson Circle. They're an interesting group. And I've read, God, I've read the Bible some even, and the Quran and all of the tenets that are part of Buddhism and Hinduism and Taoism and atheism. It just seems like I've spent 45 years just absorbing and absorbing and absorbing information. And as I look at that information again with different eyes, with my butterfly eyes, oh, wow, it's like I was building, it was like I was collecting all of the pieces of my own puzzle my whole life so that I could be the one to put it together and get all of the answers that I've always had wrapped up in that package just for me. And it just really does give you that sense of, that's the God inside. That really is the God inside. And it's all available to each of us. And it's completely unique. It's infinite. It comes out to be infinite in a world that tries to just continually box us in with limits. With that idea that there are conditions on everything because that's how it works. I love you, but that but is a condition. It is. That was one of my first realizations, was the whole idea of limitless. And no, it wasn't the movie, although the movie was good. It was actually a YouTube I came across from a theoretical physicist who had died, who was talking about the mind over matter, and the creation of the idea itself is what spawns matter and energy. Well, energy first, and then matter as a kind of a collection of form into it, as so powerful that many consciousnesses pick up on it and decide, yes, okay, that's real, and then it becomes real, so it manifests. I mean, you see these parallels in theoretical physics and quantum physics and the spirituality stuff that all through time has fought with each other. They have fought with each other to separate themselves. You can't have science and religion together. Oh no, that would be just, something that would make far too much sense. So let's just not do that. And both sides agree to that sort of attitude amongst themselves. It's really kind of funny once you see it. But so I've had lots of fun moments as I've sort of dug into reviewing my entire life through another set of eyes. Anyway, so that's how I got to that point of just questioning limitations. So, I mean, once you put that in your head and you park your fears and stuff aside of, oh no, well, what if? I mean, really, there's nothing to be afraid of. Okay, death's a big one. But in the full scheme of things as I see it now, it's just, oh, it's amazing how much hold that has had on billions of people for so long. Really, really incredible. That the cork, when the cork comes off of that one, that's probably going to be a fairly powerful manifestation reflected back to the world. So you might want to prepare for some volatile nature if that one ever comes out too quickly. Anyway, so back to whatever I was here to talk about. Right. So we do live in this world of of money, of worth, how it's all connected to so many negative spiraling emotions that we get into. When you get to the root of the onion, if you're willing to sort of dig back into yourself and understand the negative emotions that you feel and sort of take some ownership in them, knowing that you would never do that to yourself purposefully. So, what's the real reason why this happened? What was I really intended to learn from that if I take everything out of the equation except me? And be willing to allow those answers to come back to you. Your fear is over there. You can bring that back whenever you want to feel protected, or whatever use that had given you in the past to get you to this point. It's okay. You can always pick that again. I guess the point is that's a useful tool as you climb the rungs out of your self-induced vortex that you jumped into unknowingly. Fascinating. But as you climb back out, you know, it's a better climb when you can appreciate where you came from. Turn those as they say, and it's really not a cliche. Turn the negatives into positives, and it sort of boosts you up the ladder as if you can really do that. And you're going to know when that happens because you're going to have this epiphany. You're going to have this aha moment if you allow it, and it's wonderful. It's just wonderful, and you almost, well, I know the first few times I giggled quite a bit at how afraid I was, and I really had no clue that I was so wrapped up in all of those negative manifestations of fear, because that's really what they are. And climbing those first few rungs, the thing that grated me most, I guess, before I even really caught on to it, I was up a number of rungs, I think, before I started to clue in what was actually happening. So, but it felt good as I climbed the rungs. It felt good to power through some of those latent things that we hold on to that we don't even, they're not even ours. We hang on to so many things that are other people's issues that really were never our own. And to let go of them doesn't mean you don't love them. In fact, you're going to love them even more. And if you think you hate them, I've got news for you. The more you hate someone, the more you deeply love them, because that lesson they are going to teach you, wow, it's going to knock your socks off. I guarantee it. It's beautiful. Beautiful. So I look around myself over the last couple of months, and I've recognized how money has such a core hold on so many people. It's when when the core issue on the spiritual front is worthlessness, and we tie almost everything around us to a dollar, to money, to currency. They're so deeply and intricately connected that it's no surprise that the spiritual, groups of people are not informed of the cryptocurrency group of people in Bitcoin. Because that was really driven by an intense need to eliminate individual, whoops, excuse me, individual worth from the equation of the worth of the whole. It's tied to, worth is tied to a man-made idea that has no foundation in nature, I guess. And that I guess is part of why, my first little um, forays into the fearless realms did come actually through my history, through finance and economics and currency, and it's no surprise my butterfly allowed me to find Bitcoin and then solar coin. Um, I guess the point being that I do think solar coin, the idea is brilliant. I'd like to see it loosen the limitations. You know, there's going to be a whole lot more mega wattage out there than just 98 billion, and allow each person's butterflies to determine their worth in the eyes of people who want to see that, rather than trying to limit an unlimited resource, I guess. And there's the limitation again. When you see it, it's not by design or by intention that we limit ourselves. It's pay attention to which voice is saying what. The caterpillar will always impose limitations because that's what we're here in this body to do, is to experience and explore and grow. And you can't, in order to guide ourselves, once we get to a new apex of knowledge of finding out the answer to a question, we kind of put a stop sign there sometimes. And the beauty of it all is that the more questions you have, the more answers you'll end up getting, because it's a never-ending series of life and circumstance. Time is here as a reflection of what we're doing, not as a determining factor or as a limit we need to restrict ourselves to, I suppose. So you start to see this everywhere as you just use that simple idea of, questioning and asking straight up, okay, is there a limiting idea here? And if there is, then question it. What is it? And if you find yourself going back down the ladder into negativity, then that's your first clue that this is not really worth your time. This is not going to get you anywhere positive. So let it go. Just drop it. It was your caterpillar trying to insert itself again and take you down a path that's interesting, yes, but of no good purpose to you. It's really not going to make you feel better, and you don't have an answer for it. You don't know what you don't know, so just let it go. It'll work itself out. Wish it the best, and go on to something else. And as I, kind of came to so many little conclusions and epiphanies the last few months, one of my real desires and frustrations, I guess, still has been the fact that I do have this great job, and I just don't want to be there anymore. I I don't have an answer. I put the question out, I don't have an answer. And I just realized this morning that, I need to follow my own advice, I think. And I really don't know what I am meant to be here for, this whole purpose question. I guess that's the core of where I'm caught up right now, and what I'm kind of working with through here, and sharing it with you as part of it, I suppose. And what I realize is, okay, what do I love to do? What do I love to do? I love to be, it's not even what I love to do. What do I love to feel? What excites me most? What causes me to hop up on the higher vibrating disc, as Abraham says? And it really, I love to learn. I love to be surprised. I love to I love to laugh at myself, and I love to laugh at the mistakes I've made to learn from. You know, everything is, we have so much opportunity around us to have fun, and we don't need money to do it. This whole path up my ladder hasn't cost me anything but personal time invested in me. You know, just looking inward, as they say. You know, call it whatever you want, but it really, give yourself a hug. You know, that one helped me even. And I only ever wanted to use the things that help me. I've noticed that as I've shared the things that truly, honestly help me, even if they might have sounded crazy or seemed silly or whatever, I started to realize that, you know, my honest passion for what had happened, my joy in discovering it, that was really the the vibration or the energy that people responded to. It wasn't what I was saying. It wasn't the experience or the circumstances that mattered at all. It really was, and you can tell this because you can even fake one. Because I mean, I spent 40 some odd years faking. I'm really good at it. So, you know, I know that vibration of faking and excitement. And you can try that on yourself when you can feel which place it's coming from as you become a little bit more practiced at it. So I started to think about, you know, that feeling, you know, what is that? And so I put that question out there, like, what is that feeling? And then I thought, well, if I can go back on so many other things that I've had questions on and the answers are all right there for me to see, then all I need to do is open myself up to, you know, allowing me to tell me the answer. And that, even in and of itself, sounds quite comical once you get it and you understand how, when people might hear you say that, people deeply in the caterpillar lifestyle would see that and think they're fucking crazy. They've lost their minds, they're schizophrenic, they're blah blah blah. Oh, she loves herself, she must be a narcissist. And here we go. That too is a fascinating example of how psychology as a division of medicine has ignored the butterfly, you know, and put limitations and labels and on all of these mental illnesses of, and they are, I mean, that's not to discount that they aren't real. They're very real. The path out of them, I think, though, is to is to find the butterfly, you know, that, and love the caterpillar, but find your butterfly, for God's sake. And everyone has a uniquely different one that can float out of those terrible dark places that we can just find ourselves in. And you know, both of these things can work together. I guess I would prefer that, you know, the term mental illness be used to describe and not define people. Because when you use it to define someone, guess what you're doing? You're putting a box around them. And the box is a limitation, and source is limitless. You know immediately where that came from. And then you can literally just, it opens up before your eyes. You see it for really what it is. And it just was. There, we can look back through our own history as a human civilization even, and view things in that mirrored respect, and focus on the emotion that drove the manifestation rather than having the event be the cataclysm. It was the emotion that created the event that was the cataclysm, or the catalyst, I should say. That's the best word. And that catalyst is often, so we've got it quite backwards. The catalyst is not the event. It's the mass consciousness emotion that created the event. That was the catalyst. It was an emotional reaction to other reflections around that gathered steam and manifested in the real world, not on screen, but in the real world, on Gaia, the overall consciousness of the planet. That's where those things become manifest from us all. And you can see this. You can, as you start, you can look around. You can just see what's going on. And the process to get here is unlimited as well. And back to my latest epiphany of, what is my purpose? What am I here to do? And if I take everyone out of the equation and leave just me and look back on myself, all 45 plus years of it, from childhood early all the way up through, because I went through all of those eras in my life in the last 6 to 8 months as I was trying to answer all these awesome questions that I allowed myself to ask without regard to the answer. And I realized that what I've done was I've inspired myself. And as I look back through for inspiration, for these great feelings that I have now when I have them, and I look to see where the inspiration came from, it came from everywhere, and it was me setting up everything to show me who I am, and I've inspired myself to be here. So, and that's curious as it just so tickles with that age-old judgment of ego being represented by one who loves themselves. Oh, ego is edging God out, as Wayne Dyer said a few nights ago. And this isn't that. This is allowing God in. Call God whatever you want. But know that it is within you, whatever you call it. This morning I woke up thinking about, sin. And I say that my filter is obviously more through the Christian one, because my childhood I had a fairly long period of time in a fundamentalist Christian religion, United Pentecostal. And I'm more than thankful for that. I mean, a lot of the lessons I've been learning lately were thanks to that being in that environment. It taught me so much about people and about what's really going on here, And I'm very appreciative of that. But as a result, a lot of my insights, let's say, or my own little epiphanies are filtered through that more Christian timeline, let's say. So I woke up this morning. Last night, for whatever reason, I was thinking about Judas. I'd read somewhere that people just can't understand, what the real message of Judas is, and I was thinking about him last night because, it really was in the terminology of the caterpillar and the butterfly, and, Jesus being some sort of, inspiration to these people, that Judas would have resisted that. I mean, I get that. We all get that. Well, maybe not all of us, but a great many of us, especially I think in my particular generation, we've become very good at stroking our caterpillars and hiding all of the things that come out that aren't supposed to be there, and there, life and energy, and that it has a way of breaking out. It's infinite in nature. I mean, you can wrap the most amazing, customized Ray Kurzweil robe around that caterpillar and make it the most awesome crystalline caterpillar in the world. And it will never outdo source because it will always have a limit. That's pretty profound when you think about that. So back to Judas, he kind of represents the downward spiral, I guess, to me, the full manifestation of that downward spiral in this whole dual energy we've been in the last, couple thousand years or more. Who knows? That's going pretty far back, but this whole right or wrong or this or that, or it's so comical when you see it. And I did see it one day at work. I was thinking about this at work, and it was just one of those awesome moments where you understand that it's not just right or wrong or this or that. It's this and that. It's both, and that's the whole of it. Is that you can have both to that answer. There is, when you try to define, when you limit an answer by dividing it, right? So we have a question. We assume there's two answers and we do have choice. We can pick one or the other. We can pick both. We can pick neither. There's four choices when you thought you only had two. So that kind of thinking just really has to get out of the way, because it's kind of holding us back a little bit, and that's okay. We'll figure it out. But when I looked down and I thought, it's not this or that. It's not or anymore. We're in the and I looked down and I saw I had something on my desk about DNA, but it was upside down. Or sorry, no, it was upside down. But I realized when I looked at it that and is just DNA backwards. I mean, we're evolving to that level of figuring that more encompassing thing out. And that's what they, in lots of circles refer to as expanding your consciousness. That's what that means. You're not just stuck in a judgmental pattern of strict belief systems, your mind just naturally opens up to the bigger view that while one person stuck in their place may see the triangle, the other person, may see the circle. If neither of them move, they're never going to appreciate the wonder together that it's actually a cone in three-dimensional space that they're looking at. They were both right and they were both wrong because they didn't have the complete picture. So, I mean, that's this kind of thing. That's where, and that's what those negative emotions really are for. They're to guide you. Like if you see someone in the news, that, well, even I guess probably the easiest example would be the cop killer. The cop situation. No, I don't want to use that one. That's got way too much going on in there. Need something more simple. Well, okay. I'm not even going to search for one because that's silly. That's letting my mind, I'm going to allow one to come to me. There was a gentleman that Mike and I were talking to a couple of nights ago outside the Wayne Dyer event. And he got quite animated about what Wayne Dyer was there for, and I could feel so much coming off of him. But one of the things of interest to me was that I wasn't judging him at all. I was observing, and I was trying to listen to and just try to understand, how deeply buried his little butterfly was. I was sort of peeking through his own filters and zooming around trying to look, and as I was trying to feel where he was coming from, and he immediately kind of put his hands up and he says, I don't mean to offend you. I don't mean to offend you. And I thought, okay, that's interesting because I wasn't at all offended. And so I knew that he wasn't picking that energy up from me because I wasn't putting it out. So it was one of his reflections going back to him that, he was afraid that he was going to offend me. When really, I guess he he was giving reverence to his own butterfly. His own butterfly was batting the wings in there like mad, saying, stop this judging of people with money, and stop judging yourself that you're in an unhappy marriage, or stop feeling that you didn't do the best that you could absolutely do for those 5 kids, because you did. But the best thing you can do for everyone and yourself is to just let me out, stop offending me. And oh, it was just this moment of I just completely understood how this life that we all can live in the caterpillar world can lead such a strong soul to an angry place of judgment and self-ridicule, really. I mean, oh, I wanted to I wanted to reach in and, just uh, but I also know that is intrusive. I mean, he put his hand up when he said, I don't want to offend you, but in a way that hand was also kind of an I got this moment, which, so I just smiled and told him that, I wasn't offended at all, like at all. And I just projected back to him, I guess, a, a respect that I recently found for myself. So it wasn't fake. And the knowing that if, just let them know it's okay to pay attention to the butterfly in whatever form it presents itself. And that's it. That's it. And I said, may the source be with you, because that's my favorite saying now. And Star Wars is coming out after all soon. Everyone's going to be excited about that. Talk about interesting reflections of mass consciousness there. I could get into a whole stream of things that just ooze it. But I think what's most exciting is not for me to sit here and prove to everybody else what I've uncovered, because I already did that. I've proved it to myself. I've inspired myself. And that's all I'm going to do. It's not my job to put it out there and start to dictate your inspirations and your excitements, because they're none of my business. And as soon as I try to do that, as soon as I try to take even just a hint of that freedom away from you to enjoy your own inspiration, is the minute that I start to box you up. And I have no desire to do that ever. I never, because my biggest inspiration is not to box myself up. No limitations. Yeah, you can have some pauses. These physical bodies need some time to catch up to all the excitement, of course, but and there's a recognition of that comes anyway. I mean, there's no harm in enjoying some epiphanous moments, knowing that there will be a little wave down for you to catch up. I mean, it looks just like a heartbeat if you want to know how it works. Um, and a heartbeat that is also connected to every heartbeat on the planet, and there is absolute truth to be said in, each person that finds their own inner inspiration amps up each heartbeat on the planet. And it's a force to be reckoned with. It's the only force to be reckoned with, because it's all that is. It is. I mean, you hear these sayings like all that is, and And that was part of my experience as I sort of tried to understand the New Age movements, and I immersed myself in that. That was fun. What I love most, is allowing all of this information to just absorb into my infinite sponge. That's what it's like for me. So I spent a lot of time, clicking through and learning things. I found myself often going back in history, right? What the trick I used early on to sort of allow myself to do this was that feeling thing. I just would go on click adventures on thank you, Google, by the way, for allowing me to explore all of the knowledge that's out there, which is exactly what that initial theoretical physicist was discussing in some of his research before he died. Oh, I wish I could remember his name. I'll remember it. I'll get back to it. Whatever. Someone else will find it. Doesn't matter. You get it in, you go figure it out. So, but it struck me how it was interesting that was what his work was, that um, the whole medium is the message kind of thing, that as we expand and we can use, it's almost like it's our Akash, if you want to think of it that way. It becomes who we are, and in an interesting kind of way, when you see it as the switching the cause and effect, you can look back and through history, and it's almost like we have the ability to pull different branches from our own history through our creative and imagination and desires. If enough people really, really resonate with the idea of ancient aliens, let's say, they will start to pull through sources of information, and then those things will start to come out because, of course, people are looking for them. So there's questions out there to be answered, um, and that's what we're all here for, is in some way to offer answers to all the questions. Um, Google's pretty profound in that respect, as a reflection of what we're all trying to do. Um, so I digress, but you can actually sort of look back and see how we're creating maybe a new history for ourselves that was actually always there, and we're just pulling it to the surface as we become more collectively inspired in the preference to be on a high flying disc instead of a low flying disc. And up until recently, back to Judas, I guess, was that up until recently the energy didn't allow for that second breath. The mass consciousness was still just a little bit too low. There would be the odd one who could poke up through and allow their butterfly to come in while they were still here, but not very many, not enough to affect the whole. But we're always on this path upward. No matter what limitations we wrap around ourselves, we will always burst through, because that is how it works. So you, the act of bursting through, though, I do believe can come from either end. And oftentimes, the biggest breakthroughs come from, diving right straight down into the black hole on the negative side. And in a world where the energy primarily for so long was an either or, Judas is a perfect example of someone who stroked his caterpillar and was so insistent that that was all there was, that when he realized that he was the only one who could forgive himself, he just couldn't take that. and he ended it. And that's an easy place to get to, people. But born from that, let's assume you don't commit suicide. Although, I think in the past a lot of people, maybe a lot more people did than we think, I'm not sure. Certainly a lot of people have died thanks to our putting limitations on things and becoming convinced that that was how the world worked. But again, just looking at myself, this is, at how these things can work out for an individual. And I look back at Judas and I can resonate with him. And who's to say he committed suicide anyway? Maybe he did commit suicide in a sense, but what he really did was, found his butterfly and realized he could become an entirely new person, an entirely different person. He would have left the old behind, not because Judas had a bad name, but because, it didn't matter. Judas got him to where he was. I guess there are some ideas out there that Judas didn't kill himself and that he did, continue on. But really, he is probably the best example of where we're at today. I mean, I was even reading a little bit last night about this new 13th sign of the zodiac and the 13th this and the 13th that. And, Judas really was the 13th. And I read the book of Judas, which someone said they found that National Geographic had translated, and that was pretty interesting. And it's like, okay, I'm kind of seeing all these reflections of a new, maybe a new thread being pulled through from history is to help us in this today to realize, what that next stage may be. And oddly enough, my birth sign is in this new 13th astrological sign, which is kind of funny. I can totally see myself doing that to myself. And in fact, I did. So, that's fun. And what I realize at this point in time is that I'm going to have a whole lot more questions, and I'm going to have a whole lot more answers come to me. And that really, if all I'm here to do is inspire myself, then I'm just going to continue to inspire myself. And it inspired me this morning to share this kind of real-time moment that I had with myself and share it with other people. Because I think it was Bashar or others, or they've said there's some really good things in those, if anybody wants to really follow their excitement and listen to some of them. But they said that, do what excites you, and the people who are interested in what you have to say or what you do or what you manifest for yourself, they'll be there. And since I did inspire myself, I'd like to put it out there and show people that it's entirely within your own capability, no matter your background or history or circumstance, to come to this place of love really all on your own. It's a wonderful and beautiful experience to have. Sometimes it is a little bit frustrating when you want to just tell people, this is all you gotta do, this is all you gotta do. And you see people and you can identify exactly, and that moment of, just accepting that it's none of your business and knowing that they are gonna get there on their own, and just loving them for who oftentimes they don't even know they are. Oh, and there's so many powerful people around me. It's just incredible. Ah, and some who have yet to get past those first couple of bottom rungs to see just a little bit more light. But again, I guess if I just shine my light and inspire myself and continue, that's really all I can do to help the world. And in fact, by looking at everything I've researched and understood and everything in the last year or so, it actually works. We just got to get out of our own way, I suppose, and not be afraid, not be afraid of some of the answers that may come back, you know? So that's me inspiring me and sharing with whoever feels whoever's drawn to it to listen, I guess. Because that's the intention I want to put out there with this at the end. That's part of the little bit of resistance I was feeling, I think, was that I don't want to promote it. I want to actually sort of use it as an experiment. My caterpillar really, really loves experiments. And all throughout this journey, all of the skills that I used in all of the education and everything that I've gotten have been incredibly helpful. You know, I thank that. I'm thankful for that. I surrounded myself with an abundance of knowledge before, and I got all of the letters to say so. But, you know, really, what I really want to see, what I really learn most is to prove it to myself. Prove it to myself. So let's just see. I mean, I really actually want to do this without promoting it. I don't want to promote it. I don't want to. I was on YouTube earlier, and that was part of the thing that icked me out a little bit. I did the monetized thing because, you know, what the hell. So, but then I thought I don't want, and then it, you know, AdSense, and it gives you all these promotional ways to push your caterpillar, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to, if I'm going to inspire me, I'm going to inspire me. And for anyone out there in the world who is attracted to this and it helps them, that is what makes me feel the best. That is what makes me feel the best. To know that I'm not doing this to prove my worth, because I've already proven my worth to me. This is about inspiring other people to find their worth. And one of my best, closest friends ever in the whole world told me this was important. Back in December at Christmas, she gave me a birthday, or sorry, a Christmas. I'm getting a little emotional because I love her so. And she gave me a necklace for Christmas, and it has it has Inspire on it. And of course, when I got it, I thought, oh, that's sweet. And then I was thinking of her just a couple days ago. And I realized that all the times that she said I inspired her, I didn't believe her because I was viewing myself through all the lenses that my caterpillar had carefully put in place for me. And I didn't recognize that. I didn't believe her, I guess. And now that I've, you know, removed a lot of those lenses and cleaned a number of them up some and tweaked them to suit their best purpose, and I look again at her statement that I inspired her, I believe I can see that from a certain set of eyes how some of the actions I've taken in the past may have come across as an inspiration because ultimately they were born from the inner butterfly that always was me, that rebellious sort of break the rules spirit that I've had. Oh, it always has a way of coming out, I guess. And I had fun. I did. I had fun trying to, dare people to be more bold, and it was always there, I guess. It's funny too because so many of the things that I did then were one of the first things, were one of the first limitations I put on myself inside was, that I'd done bad things, that I'd sinned, or, you know, all the labels, I'd bought into them, every one of them. Keep that secret. People aren't supposed to know our business. And, all of the things just kind of came back full circle again of just reinforcing the notion of how we do this to ourselves every time. And we really don't have to. We really don't have to. It's a beautiful thing. It really is incredible. Incredible. I mean, like I said earlier, I guess the circumstances of it don't really matter. I mean, sometimes I guess it helps if you're in a situation where there are a lot of people suffering from the same situation, and you can truly empathize with the circumstances of what they're talking about. But it can you can go deeper on your own and just inspire yourself to, I mean, even first just inspire yourself to just feel a little bit better. um, Listen to some Abrahams, or some of these outrageous things that are just coming from pure source. I mean, they truly are. I've not found a lie in one of them yet, and I spent a lifetime trying to figure out ins and outs and finding out lies, and I cannot find a lie in the channeled information from Kryon, Abraham. Bashar's getting a little dicey with the whole copyright thing. I'm not real sure what's going on with him there, but a dude named Elan also channels Bashar, and I mean, it's the same message. That's the other interesting thing, is that it's the same message. You can tell when the source of the message is coming from source, because there are no limitations. That's the key. And as you look around and apply it in the three-dimensional world around you, as you go through 24/7, and you can start to see the limitations, and then you start to see the things that have no limit. And oh, that is powerful stuff. I mean, just to imagine a world. Last Sunday I had come across this thing about meditating every Sunday at a specific time, and for me in Atlantic Canada, it's at noon. And they didn't say how long. So it was, that tripped me up a little tiny bit. But I decided, you know what? Doesn't matter. I'm going to go for as long as I want. So I went out on my back deck, and I just laid there and absorbed the sun, and I meditated, and I imagined. I used I used all of the cool things I've heard in the last couple of months to sort of help me put intentions out there for world peace. And I thought, what is the if the world were at peace, what would be the feeling? Like, what would be the feeling to help drive it there, to, a catalyst to really push the world as a microcosm of our micro, whatever, a bigger representation of us. That's all that means anyway. Um, and just what would that feeling be? And so I imagined the feeling that helped me, right? Well, that's the best feeling I can come up with, because it's the one that I've imagined to help lift me up my ladder out of the negative vortex. And it's relief, just that feeling of relief of, oh, it'll be so nice when I don't have to go in to that job anymore. Or it'll be so nice when I get home so I can just, chill out. Or it'll be so nice when people stop leaving me alone about this project that makes no sense. Or, you can imagine the feeling of relief. Oh, and it's beautiful. It encompasses that feeling of relief, encompasses so many of these necessary tools of living, like allowance and letting go and freedom and and it might not quite be getting to inspiration, but I think it's one of those first blocks there. You know, if you can imagine and feel that feeling of relief, and then just that's the energy that matters. That's the energy that vibrates and attracts source to it. When you want to talk about it in terms of quantum physics, let's say. And they're going to figure this out. You know, they always come, you know, science tends to be a lagging indicator, just as religion is. We're the leading indicators. Don't ever think otherwise, because we are. It's us. If we want to know what's going on in the world around us, just look at it. Look at ourselves. Look around ourselves, and that will be the picture. You'll get in tune with that more, and it will paint before your very eyes, I do believe. And that's what inspiration is for, I think. It's to lift people up off of that next rung. And I know it's helped me to lift myself off of the relief rung into inspiration. This was an inspiration. I don't even want to count all of the things as I look back over the last few months that the pathway for me to do just this one thing, was really laying in front of me the whole time. It's fantastic. Uh, and I love the idea that each and every one of us has it in us. You know, you get this whole new profound respect for people that you see. And I'm still practicing. I mean, it's a pretty intense thing to carry this high flying feeling around with you 24/7. But then time again is another limitation. And as I kind of experiment with this stuff and play with it and allow myself the ability to just have a little bit of fun or a lot of fun, when I'm in those moments, time does seem to, if not stay still, it certainly seems to slow down a lot. I had a big energy day the other day. We saw Wayne Dyer in the morning. We went to the Wayne Dyer thing on Wednesday night, just gone past, and it was great. You know, they put chairs in front of us, and he sat in front of us at the beginning of it, and you know, he had all his Caterpillar fans kind of, you know, taking pictures and stuff, and meanwhile I'm just sitting there just thinking, wow, look at the life that this guy, just look at how he has followed his butterfly, and 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 still has the ability to embrace everything about who he was. Everything. He represents exactly what I'm talking about. Exactly what this is. And he does it so much better. Well, he doesn't do it better than anyone else. There are no hierarchies in any of this. I mean, as soon as you start to place a hierarchy, you're putting limitations. So none of that is even true. You know, it's but the way that he can teach is, and you can even tell with him when it's coming from his heart, and when it's coming from his heart, and when it's coming from his mind, and he even highlights those for you too. He's really an incredible teacher. um, so yes, and Thursday morning, the next morning, we got up to leave, and you know, Mike said, well, let's just see where the day takes us. So I said, okay. We go out into the hallway, and who's jogging by us with no shirt on but Wayne Dyer? I said, I mean, I couldn't help but laugh. Like, what kind of bizarre circumstance? Really, you can't make this stuff up, right? There he is running by me in the morning. I said, good morning, Wayne. And he says, good morning. I said, may the source be with you. And he says, always is. And, you know, we get in the elevator. Mike and I are kind of giggling. It was a really cool moment. And a completely random moment brought to me by me, I guess, because before I left, I put it out there that You know, I wanted to have random, silly, crazy things happen to me all the time, you know, to answer all the questions and just so I could have as much fun as possible in this life that I'm here living. You know, that's because that's what I'm all about right now. I I'm just gonna I'm gonna forget about, you know, how to pay my bills, I guess. I have a job, and you know, maybe I'll find some inspiration in it soon. Um, I'm not gonna close that door. I love the people. I love the people I work with. I mean, oh my God, truly the last 6 months of this I could never have come to this place without all of the teachers that are there to guide me. All of them, in their own way, have taught me something about myself. So I certainly don't frown upon going to work. I guess the only time I get annoyed is when it actually comes to doing the work, you know, because it's not inspired by me. I don't know who inspired it, but it wasn't me. Ah, I inspired me to follow a path, I guess, to be there, but I have no idea why. Not yet. Um, and it could be that I just go. I don't know. Anyway, again, I don't know what I don't know. I'm gonna put that out there and see what comes back. Um, it's nice to let go. It's nice to let go of those things and see what'll come back to you. Um, So in the end, that's all I'm gonna say is that I'm gonna continue to inspire myself to reach out for all the questions that are gonna start coming again. They never really end, do they? They continue to come. But they sort of slow down a lot once you realize how it works, and that the answers that you're really seeking in your heart will come to you, and that the imagination that you have of a world you'd like to be in, that you can play a part in that. That's the most wondrous gift of all, isn't it? So, in closing, I guess I will send out a little blessing. May the source be with you. May the source of inspiration, which is within you, be heard and be recognized and be loved and be appreciated as all that you are, as a part of all that is. Thank you for listening.